And, you know, that's also why I think it's attractive often to young men at the bottom of the dominance hierarchy who are dispossessed. You know, like one of the things we know is that if you have a fairly flat dominance hierarchy, so that opportunity is distributed and there's a reasonable probability of getting from the bottom to the top, so you have hope, let's say, then the males at the bottom don't get very aggressive. But if you get the damn thing pointed up, so that there's almost no possibility of moving forward, even if you use competence, then the males at the bottom, especially the ones that are disagreeable, so they would be more warrior types, man, they get aggressive right away. And they're gangs, they dominate the gangs, and they go to war with each other. And the reason for that is that the successful gang members are far more successful as successful gang members than they would be successful as low-end, poorly paid conformists. Now, most of the guys in the gang are worse off, actually. So some of the best anthropological evidence that's been collected suggests that most people in a drug ring, so they're the people at the bottom, make less than they would if they were working for minimum wage. But it's a lottery, you know. Partly the violence helps because the top of the damn hierarchy is being peeled off by deaths all the time. So there's always the possibility that you're going to pop yourself up 3 or 4 levels, and then you'll have a riotous old time for the next 5 years till you die, which would be a lot better than having a chaotic existence with nothing for the next 5 years until you die. So, you know, part of what societies always have to do is to make sure the damn dominance hierarchy doesn't get so steep and unclimbable that all the ordinary men at the bottom start to get hyper-violent. It's well documented. And the best work on that was done at McMaster. And I can never remember the people who did the work, unfortunately. I can never remember their name. It'll come to me. So, yep.
So, then I guess the best strategy then for deciding whether to remove the tyrant or not is to assess the potential for chaos to manifest in a productive form, in a more heroic form, as opposed to the adversarial form.
Right, right. But, you know, people generally don't do that calculation. You know, remember when the Americans went into Iraq, what did they think? What was the theory? We'll be welcomed as liberators. Well, that was actually true in some cases for about a week. But the problem was they wiped out the power structure, they dismantled the army, and you can see why. But then what the hell are all those soldiers going to do? They're soldiers. They know where the weapons are. They're not just going to sit around, especially not the hyper-aggressive guys who are already soldiers. They're going to think, to hell with this. You know, it's chaos and I'm going to get what I want. It was so interesting when I saw that happening because they went and wiped out Saddam, and then there was all these people stealing computers and things from the government offices. And the Western media kept saying, looting, looting. And I thought, it's not looting. You just wiped out the legal system. There's no legal system anymore. It's not looting, because that would be against the law. There's no law. You just wiped it out. He was a dictator. Now, you could say, well, those people should have followed the law as if it was there. It's like, well, you wouldn't have gone into that country if it was true. Because that would only be true if the law was just. Because if it wasn't just, then why the hell should people obey it? And if you'd been tyrannized by people for 30 years, and you could take a computer, it's like, who's to say that isn't exactly what you should do? You know, the West acted like, well, actually, natural law governs this, and Hussein is just a, what do you call, an anomaly, and so you take him out, and then there's natural law, and you should follow it. That wasn't looting. There's no looting when there's no law.
I'm just drawing the connection of, like, what you were just saying, and what you talked before when you were stressing the importance of, like, voluntarily facing an anomaly or dealing with your craft yourself rather than letting the world present it to your doorstep and cause a response. And it's kind of like, I think it's kind of exemplified in this case, like, you have to do it voluntarily, because if you do it voluntarily, you'll do it in a way that, like, you can take into account the fact that you care about yourself and you want to have to integrate these things later. Like, if you depose, like, say, your own dictator, right, in your head, your own Saddam, and then, like, you can take the care to reintegrate it with the things that are left over.
Well, that's exactly right. So, Well, they also might blow it apart at such a high level in the hierarchy that there's no bloody way you're going to be able to bite off and digest the huge pieces of Tiamat that happen to be laying around. You know, so one of the, because part of the reason I was trying to lay this out over these years is because I was trying to figure out, since there's a relationship between the adversarial element of the individual, so that would be the part that's willfully blind and that likes to lie, and tyranny, and the abolition of the positive element of chaos, you know, and the tendency for things to deteriorate, those are all causally linked in a really tight manner. That's Solzhenitsyn's observation and Frankel's observation and Havel's observation. It's the whole essence of existentialist thought. Okay, what the hell are you supposed to do about that? And the answer seems to be, don't have it happen. And so you say, well, when should you stand up against tyranny? Well, you should stand up against tyranny when it manifests itself at micro levels right in front of you. That's what you have to do. And so that means you have to be awake all the time for transgressions against the positive element of the individual and the positive element of culture.